CBS News Chief White House Correspondent Major Garrett in Washington. Lots to discuss here, Major, but we just saw that new poll. It shows really not a whole lot of good news there for Senator Cruz, and certainly the numbers are growing in Donald Trump's favor. Do the campaigns, though, at this point believe that the GOP frontrunner's lead is what is significant, a double-digit 15% lead at current?
So I had a chance to talk this morning with Paul Manafort, who is Trump's campaign and convention manager, essentially, and he said he does believe that poll that shows a 15-point lead. Not everyone in the Trump campaign does. They do believe they have a solid lead. They do believe they're in a position to win 51 of the 57 available delegates in Indiana, and by that margin, deal what would essentially be a death blow to what remains of Cruz's hopes of denying Trump a first ballot nomination. There are those in the Cruz campaign, and I talked to many grassroots activists over the weekend in Indiana who are Republicans who are sort of near and closer, not only geographically, but ideologically to what's happening on the ground. They thought Cruz late Saturday afternoon maybe had a 3 or 4 point lead, but they were nervous that this is an open primary, which means Democrats and independents can participate. And in open primaries, Trump has done better than some of the polling has suggested. So they were nervous. Those in the Cruz campaign I talked to and World on Saturday were nervous about what the next 48 hours would bring. And if the move is in Trump's direction, psychologically, that could be very important, because one of the dynamics I think that's going on now for Trump supporters is, let us be the place where this ends. Let us be the place where we can say for all time we gave Donald Trump the ultimate, most important victory. And that may be setting in psychologically in Indiana. We'll see in the next day. Cruz's own words yesterday saying that he's happy that this is all going to come down to the voters in Indiana seem to suggest that, if nothing else, these two can agree on the idea, perhaps, of a last stand. Meanwhile, the majority of likely Republican voters in the state, 58% to be exact, Major, also say they disapprove of that alliance of a sort formed last week. Is there any net positive in the next 24 hours then for Cruz? Hard to see it, but for Cruz, there is one net positive in the sense that it does create what he's always asked for, a clear-cut one-on-one challenge against Donald Trump. That is a potential benefit. But if you lose, and you lose decidedly, then that which you thought would always benefit you, when it's rendered in public to be that which knocks you out of the campaign, you really have no more talking points left. That's why it was always such a high-risk endeavor to begin with, and one fraught with peril, not only operationally but politically, and that peril may come to fruition very soon. And this is still against the national backdrop. I was struck in your piece this morning. You pointed out that Trump's field ops now have paid real dividends in Massachusetts, in Delaware, in Arkansas, and the days perhaps of being outflanked in that respect by Cruz seem to be ending for him. So if Trump, again, wins decisively tomorrow, do you expect to hear from Cruz what we've been hearing from Bernie Sanders, that I'm staying in no matter how quixotic it seems? I think Cruz will stay in. I think he really wants to compete with California. That's the other part of the reason he picked Carly Fiorina as a potential presumptive just-in-case running mate, because Carly Fiorina has high visibility in California, a proven fundraiser there. She is a surrogate the Cruz campaign can send to any one of the congressional districts in California, and she doesn't have to be introduced. She has instantaneous name recognition. So they're going to continue to compete in California. But if they do get blown out in Indiana, they will be competing essentially against themselves. They will no longer be competing as a number one, plausible alternative to Donald Trump, or number two, a credible threat to Donald Trump winning on a first ballot. And to the point I made for CBS this morning, it didn't really get a lot of coverage this weekend, but there were several state conventions around the country, and these have been places where historically the Cruz campaign has outmaneuvered, outmuscled the Trump forces. Well, not only in Arkansas, Delaware, and Massachusetts, but Alaska, the Trump forces really did well. They got plenty of delegates and delegate commitments, got those slates put together. They got completely blown out in Virginia, but there's a reason for that. Ken Cuccinelli, former high-ranking government official in Virginia, is Ted Cruz's #1 national delegate hunter. He was going to run the things in Virginia, did so well. Trump campaign also got outfoxed in Arizona. But for the first weekend, Josh, this is important, there was a real contest. And the Trump folks In some cases won outright, in some cases broke even, but for the first time they were there, they were organized, they knew what to do, and they got some of their work done.
The real impact we're perhaps seeing there from Paul Manafort. Before we let you go, I want to ask you a couple questions actually about the White House Correspondents' Dinner. As a secretary, you actually had the opportunity to put together something hasn't gotten a lot of play, but you put together almost something of a going-away present of sorts for the president, wherein you managed to put together, to gather 8 years worth of gaffes of his on the stump, literally tripping at times, losing himself in speeches. Before I ask you about his remarks and his comedic timing, you know, it was the one moment I was struck watching him on the stage this weekend where he didn't seem to get a whole lot of laughs at himself. Did he have anything to say to you about that?
About the video?
Yeah.
Well, so after the video, he got up, came over to see me. We shook hands. We hugged it out as much as a journalist and a president can in public or anywhere else. And he said to me, that was really great. I'd like a copy of it. So there you have it. And really all the video was designed to do was keep it light, have a little bit of tempo. The very first 45 seconds of it are devoted to what this White House regards as the most significant accomplishments of the Obama presidency over 8 years. We spent time making sure that that was a foundational element of describing the 8 years. But as we made clear, we're not in the business of creating the Obama legacy. As my track line said at the very top, we'll leave that to the press shop. But with an eye toward history and humor, let's just go through some of the time you had as president, as a candidate for president. We included some of the things that he did as a candidate to remind the audience subtextually that we're going through the last year of a presidency now and a very dogged, intense presidential campaign now. And some of the things you do in the presidential campaign, for good or for ill, or that are just funny, live throughout your presidency. And we were trying to make sure that people understood that as well. But mostly it was just a light touch, something that had some tempo, a little bit of humor. And I was very pleased the president liked it.
I have to let you go, but very, very quickly, Major, what did you make of his remarks?
Well, the president's excellent. He has tremendous comedic timing. He has a great sense for popular culture. And as every good president does, he makes fun of himself.
And he had quite a mic drop, to be sure. Major Garrett there in Washington, thank you.
You got it.